Larry Lala here to discuss the black letter law, as in, what the hell is it? It's a term that you may have heard thrown around. I want to tell you what it is and why you need to know it. What is it? The black letter law is just the law itself. Now, that sounds like an utterly stupid definition until you remember the context in which you're operating. In law school, the main thing that you do is read cases. So we have this concept called the black letter law because as a contrast to this, this is not the black letter law. This is a case. Now, the black letter law is embedded in here somewhere. So that's the contrast. The way that you're taught in law school involves the Socratic method. More specifically, this means that you read a case and you're meant to figure out what the law is. The professor does not tell you what the black letter law is. That's your job. So instead of a case, the black letter law is that law that's written in black letters, I guess because they didn't have blue or lavender in Christopher Langdale's day. More generally, to me, I'm not sure anyone else says this, but to me, the black letter law is the network of nitty-gritty rules and sub-rules that you need to know. Now, a rule is the standard, the legal standard for a claim, a cause of action that you would bring when you sue someone or defense. So in the criminal context, intent to kill murder, there's a definition for that. In the torts context, so you get in a bar fight, battery, there's a definition, that's the rule. A sub-rule is a summary of how courts decide to apply different parts of these top-level rules, let's call them. So you want specific applications of intent to kill murder or battery. Now, there are different kinds of rules. Rules can be made up of elements or factors. When a rule is made up of elements, it means that there are a certain set of things, all of which must be present for there to be a valid claim. Meaning, if you want to win on that, you have to hit every element. So for intent to kill murder, you've got intent, a killing, not an injury, a killing, and a human being. You have to hit all three of those for the state to convict someone of intent to kill murder. Duh, you know that. In the civil context, battery, you've got an intentional and offensive contact or touching without consent. Factors, on the other hand, are different from elements in that it's a set of things that must be considered and weighed. You kind of get to throw it in a giant mix pot. This is my awesome art. And decide it. If you're missing a particular piece, that's not necessarily fatal for the claim that you bring. So you typically see factors in the context of civil procedure and constitutional law. Personal jurisdiction, forum nonconvenience. Each of these is like 4 or 5 different factors that you've got to consider. Some of these can go against you, and you can still win on the issue of personal jurisdiction, or you can still win on forum non. All those specifics, don't worry about that now. We'll get to that another day. As opposed to rules, sub-rules are the specific applications of rules that come from case law. There's a need to unpack every element, everything. When you're fighting tooth and nail in a criminal case or a torts case, you're going to challenge every single piece of a claim. So you've got intent, killing, and human for intent to kill murder, but there are a million questions as to each of these. For intent, if you didn't make a plan to kill someone, but you decided within a span of 5 seconds because of something someone said or did to kill them and you actually killed them, is that sufficient intent? You went Incredible Hulk for a second, you decided to kill someone. Turns out the answer is yes. Now, again, we go back to this stuff that's not black letter law, the case of Carroll. There is a black letter law that comes from this case that says, yes, a spur-of-the-moment killing is still enough to satisfy the intent standard of intent to kill murder. How about shooting someone with the intent to hurt but not kill? Sometimes that'll satisfy the intent part of intent to kill murder. How about battery? Each of these elements can be unpacked and analyzed to death. What's offensive? Sometimes you can have contact that's not shaking someone's hand when they're okay with that. Touching someone on the shoulder might or might not be offensive depending on the context. There's all sorts of interesting random cases on contact in the battery context. Spitting someone, turns out, can be contact. You expect that punching someone is, that's clear. But did you know that hitting someone's cane can constitute battery? Huh. Why is it important to know the black letter law? The short answer is that you need the black letter law for exams. It is the very thing that you apply on exams. Now, what does an exam look like? You get a weird fact pattern, a totally crazy story, and you're supposed to apply the law to it. So you get a story that looks like this. I'm not going to read it, but you can pause. Now, imagine using the cases that you've read and somehow trying to apply it to this. Do you remember your friend Commonwealth v. Carroll? Can you imagine applying this to this? Does that make any sense at all to you? So that's why we have the black letter law. You study that. You collect rules and sub-rules, and you apply those to the exam that you're taking. So how much more useful is it to have this in your pocket? Intent to kill murder equals this. Battery equals this. A spur-of-the-moment killing, not planned in advance, is still sufficient intent. How much more do you want this in your pocket to apply to a fact pattern than this craziness? So in the end, that's why the black letter law is important. It is the very material that we use for an exam. That's the black letter law.